I've been thinking about something, and I'm probably going to get a lot of people mad at me after the end of this video. And that's okay. You have a right to be angry at me. But I just thought of something, and it's really important. I don't know, and I think most people, while saying that what I'm about to say is very, very controversial and politically incorrect, may actually say that, Arana Nation, he's got a point here. When it comes to these terrorist attacks, they seem to only happen in countries with a majority of white folk. Y'all ever notice that? England, uh, France, the United States, Germany, uh, Italy, all these Europe, Western Europe, America, sometimes in Canada. Seems to only happen in them countries there. Now, yeah, you'll hear about terrorist attacks in in Iraq or maybe even in Nigeria and those places, but you see, those are countries where Islamic people already live. I'm talking about Islamic terrorist attack. I'm talking about Islamic terrorist attacks. They seem to only happen in countries where the population is a majority just white folk. That's just what I've noticed. I mean, it's very rare that you'll hear about a terrorist attack happening somewhere out in Asia or something. I mean, when's the last time you heard a Islamic terrorist, doing something in Japan or in Beijing? Or even in even South Africa where there aren't that many Islamic people. I mean, the only time a terrorist attack happens in a country where there aren't white folk is when the terrorist lives there already. Like, okay, Afghanistan or somewhere like that. He lives there already. He lives there. He's too lazy to travel, or he probably don't have the money to travel. Either the money didn't come into the Western Union, and he just, yeah, what the hell? I'll just blow up the local square down there in or something like that, or Jalalabad or somewhere. I'll just blow that up and save money, save time. I ain't gonna buy no first class ticket, go to American Airlines and go all the way down to New York or London or Paris and waste all this time, resources, getting the truck, getting the bombs prepared, getting the guns. I don't have money for that. I'm just gonna blow up my neighborhood right here. So that's when you'll see that. But I think I have the answer, and the answer is going to anger a lot of people. But you know what? The Arana Nation is politically incorrect. The Arana Nation says things in an insensitive way, and I think that's what a lot of people like. And if you get offended, I haven't made a video that corrects white folk on their behavior. I always correct. I'm always talking about Islamic people and black people. It's time white people get a little. I think it's because it's weakness. You know, most people that are white folk are racist. I actually don't think that. I think it's the opposite. Now there are a few, yeah, and there are a few, and they're just usually just some poor hobo, schmo, no education, nothing. He's no good. But I think that a majority of white folk are not racist. They're just weak. I mean, they allow so many things to happen. I mean, look at Canada, where I am right now. Canadian population is so weak. I mean, you would think that with natives living with poisonous water, with Canadians freezing to death in Toronto, very cold winters, last summer Quebecers died of heat stroke in hospitals. The hospital. I don't know if it didn't have heat or whatever. You would think, and then you would think that because the president of Syria said he wants his people back, we would stop this refugee program. Stop it. We would stop it. And then now the Kingston terrorists, like, you would immediately hear Justin the long-haired Mac Daddy, son of Satan, demon seed from hell, Trudeau, come out and say, you know what? We're going to stop this refugee program. It's not making any sense. It's not making, I mean, you would think that. I mean, you would think that, and you would also expect that the white folk nations, and I'm not saying white folk nations because Canada is not a white folk nation. This nation was started with first people here were native, so I don't consider Canada that Europe is white folk land, not Canada, not Australia, not America. But these countries are majority white folk. You would think that they would automatically come out and say, you know what? If we're gonna bring all these refugees here, I think that Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates and all these rich Middle Eastern nations should also bring in their own people. Even when it's Africa, when we bring in Somalians as refugees, or Rwandans, or Ugandans, or whoever, you would say, oh, these nations would say, South Africa, you take some. Nigeria, you take some. Egypt, you take some. You take some. Zimbabwe, take some. We can't just take all of them. You would think that, but they don't do that. They don't stand up for themselves. It's colonialism in reverse. In reverse. I mean, and this is going to sound a little humorous, but just bear with me. Just bear with me. I mean, we haven't had a serious plane hijacking in a long time. But get this. You know how when we used to have plane hijackings and World Trade Center and all this stuff, and they would always go for American Airlines or Delta or one of them places, maybe even British Airways. You ever wonder why these terrorists don't choose an airliner company like maybe Air Jamaica or South African Airways? You ever wonder? I mean, why don't they choose Air Jamaica? And I can tell you the answer. Because the moment a terrorist comes onto Air Jamaica with the intention of flying that plane into a building or doing whatever he wants to do with it, imagine this. He's on Air Jamaica. Muhammad al-Bakshar, whatever his name is, Muhammad al-Mustafa, unbuckles his seatbelt, stands up on the plane in Air Jamaica and says, "My name is Muhammad al-Mustafa and I'm here to bomb the plane." You know what's going to happen? You're going to get all those Air Jamaican stewardesses, the flight attendants, and all the passengers. They go turn around and go, "Hey boy, sit down in your damn seat and behave your goddamn self." And the guy would not know what hit him. They would rip him, they bust him up. They would throw hot coffee at him. I know it sounds funny, but I mean, and that's the thing. But if it's American Airlines, man, all the passengers are herded to the back of the plane like sheep in 2 seconds. It doesn't even take 2 seconds for them to go. So I think that, and I'm not trying to advocate for white people to be like, racist or unwelcoming. I mean, the Japanese, which I actually think the Japanese are very, I admire their culture actually, but they don't like too many other people. And I'm not saying that we should do that. We should respect our fellow man. But I think white folk need to be a little bit more tough when it comes to their countries. Now, Donald Trump is tough. I think he's tough. I admire him for that. Canada, I think, is hopeless. Justin Long and Mac Daddy Trudeau, first of all, he's a demon seed. I think he might be the son of Satan. So I think there's no hope for him. You have to remove him. But all of those, Theresa May in the United Kingdom, Emmanuel Macron in France, Angela Merkel in Germany, all these people, they need to learn to stand up for their countries. How is it that Germany brings in millions of these individuals and every time, you don't hear it so much on the news now because the news wants to censor it, but you'll hear it on social media, and you used to hear it on the news. They'll be assaulting women on the streets and creating all sorts of problems. The Berlin mayor who came out and said that women should dress more appropriately because they might arouse Muslim men to do something out of order. I mean, that would not happen in Japan or China. If you were to go to Beijing, first of all, the Beijing Chinese people wouldn't allow you to come here as refugees, no matter where you come from. But if they did, for some reason, allowed you to go to Beijing and you started attacking their women, you would be captured by the government. You would never be seen again. You would never. That doesn't even happen in the Muslim countries. You think that happens in the Muslim countries because that's how they behave. When you go to Saudi Arabia or any of those places, they are on their best behavior because otherwise they'll beat their head. I mean, they're even tough with their own people. And I'm saying this because as someone who lives here in Canada, born in Canada, raised in Canada, it's a country with mostly white folk, even though that looks like it might be changing. It looks like one day it might be all Chinese one day. And I've warned the white people about that. Well, not warned, because I mean, I'm no problem. If the Chinese come, well, you know what? Hey, they come. But for now it's a majority white folk nation, and I want the people in charge, who are mostly white in the government, to grow a backbone. Because I don't want to walk down the street one day and see a truck coming barreling towards me one day. And forget about me, look what happened even in Kingston. I mean, we were this close. I mean, I'm not in Kingston, but the Kingstonians were this close to be faced with a very bad terrorist attack. And if it hadn't been for the FBI, there would have been a terrorist attack in Kingston. Now, and then I mean, that's wrong. And then we still allow the problem to fester. Now, for all the white folks who are watching, which is probably a majority, don't get mad at me for saying this. Don't hate me for saying this, because you even know it's true. You know it's true. You just, I don't know if it's pride or you don't like a brother correcting you. You're too proud of how dare this nigga talk about my people like that. But I mean, no one else is doing it, so I'm just gonna do it. Maybe, hopefully, it will change the attitude of the thinking of the people in these various countries that, hey, we're a country, we're an independent nation, we have our own flag, we have our own customs. We're gonna start standing up for ourselves. Just like the Africans do in there. Well, I have to correct myself. Like the Asians do and all those other people. The Africans are just now learning to slowly stand up for themselves. But the Africans, they used to let all kinds of people roll all over them, and they still to a certain extent do. So let me kind of correct myself right there. But instead of African, let's say Caribbean then, like the Caribbean people do, and the Asians do, and even the Muslims do. I mean, they all know how to stand up for their culture and stand up for their country, and yeah, maybe they'll respect other people and stuff, but they stand up for themselves, rightly so, and they don't let things happen in their country that is not kosher. But that's all I gotta say about this. All these. When I heard about that foiled attack in Kingston, it's like I thought to myself. I'm in a small town, relatively small town in Canada. If they're gonna target Kingston, what's stopping them from targeting Oshawa, Ontario, or you know Fort McMurray, Alberta, or New Glasgow, Nova Scotia, or St. John? What's stopping them? Kingston. What's so special about Kingston? They obviously just want to scare Canadians. So these things seem to always happen in country with all these white folk. You don't hear about this happening in Japan. So stand up for yourself. And I'm speaking to Canadians mostly. But stand up for yourself. This is the Arana Nation.